Hey guys, I've been wanting to make a video for a really long time about why millennials are so broke. I mean, it seems like people are always talking about it. It seems like you can really never get away from it. And, it's a topic I wanted to talk about a little bit more and see what other people think. So, it's kind of widely discussed among many generations that, millennials have kind of shaky finances on many levels. A lot of millennials tend to claim that their wages may not be going up, or that the cost of living may be going up, while other generations may say that they're taking on too much debt or that they don't save enough. So I've put together a few things that we might want to look at to determine why they may be broke and how broke they really are. So we can look at here net worth, wages, debt, the savings rate of millennials, and what they have planned for retirement. So this is pretty general, and if you think of anything else you want to add, just drop it in the comments. So what we're looking at here is what I found for the average net worth of millennials is around $10,000. The actual number I got was about 10,400, but we can round to about 10,000 for a reason I'll discuss later. And well, actually I'll discuss that right now, because the amount of personal savings for millennials is actually $0 for 24% of millennials. $0. And 30% of millennials actually have less than $1,000 in personal savings. So if these 30% have less than 1,000, then it's pretty hard to gain a net worth of 10K without taking on a lot of debt. And you can see here that only 1% have personal savings that is greater than $100,000 here. So I believe that this skews these guys out a lot, because these guys probably live in a zero to negative net worth situation. So let's go on to the wages here. Now, for millennials, there's actually been a lot of struggles for the wages, and you can tell if you've ever listened to any millennials actually talk about their job and their sentiment in it. In fact, recently a bunch of people just walked out of Google because they say that they're not treating women fairly, they're not paying them enough, and it's really widespread across everyone and not just select groups in millennials. And it seems like the wage growth has been lost over time compared to other generations. It's not growing quite as fast as it used to be before, but it is still growing, and people are still pushing to legislate for higher minimum wages and higher pay overall. Now, and I think something that affected the wages a lot, and probably more than slowing growth, was probably the 2008 recession. Because a lot of millennials came of working age around this time, a lot of businesses couldn't hire them or wouldn't hire them. And especially even working class professionals had to leave their jobs and take low-paying, unskilled part-time jobs just to get by. So young people coming of age, it's pretty hard to get a job when people with much more experience that are much more reliable and trustworthy than you to work the same job for the same pay, they're going to take the other person. So I think this happened, a lot. And also, sorry for the stuttering. Also, a lot of the professionals in the older age range of millennials, they could have lost their jobs. They could have been the ones that lost a great full-time salary position and had to go down to working maybe 2 or 3 part-time jobs somewhere else, And another thing that I think actually relates to the wages not growing quite as much is over competition. A lot of millennials, they go into very hyped up fields. When they go into colleges, they literally look for the thing that everyone's talking about, whatever major is really popular right now. So what you'll find is that lots of people are going into specific majors that are popular, And so many people are coming out of college with all the same exact degree, and employers can't really tell who is more qualified and who is less qualified, and they have plenty of applicants, so most of the time they just take tons of interns, and then after a while they'll decide to hire you. So I think overcompetition actually relates to people getting paid a lot less, and I think that's because people don't branch out enough. They kind of follow the herd, and they stay where the competition is, you know. So we'll go into the debt here, because I think this is one of the biggest factors to why millennials are so broke. And you know, this is what's kind of scary, because only 22% of millennials live debt-free. And I mean, that's pretty crazy, because if you are a millennial and you have zero debt, you know, you have more value than, or you have less debt, you're better off in your financial situation than 77% of other millennials. And that's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. So something we find here is that 25% of millennials actually have more personal loan debt than $30,000. And that's not including student loans, which actually are at about the same range here. The average millennial has about $33,000 worth of student loan debt. And that's pretty startling. And apparently it's getting higher and higher every year, and colleges are still planning to increase their tuition rates. Although Bernie Sanders wants to change that. Good luck with that. All right. And only 24% of millennials actually live above the $0 line. And what that means is that the $0 line is where you have more assets in cash than you have debt. So if you mortgage your house at $500,000 and you put down $100,000 and that was all of your savings, and you have $400,000 worth of debt, now you're negative $400,000 below the $0 line. And it's not including what else you might have financed, like your car or your credit cards, or maybe even your student loans. And that's pretty striking too, because that means that millennials are really struggling. They're living paycheck to paycheck and just making by paying on their debts. And from that, well, before we go on, I'll just talk about, it's actually not too bad on the personal loan side, because only 11% of millennials have more than $100,000 worth of personal loan debt. So that could be considered credit cards or just other personal loans, and that's actually not too bad. So it could be worse, and that could be really catastrophic. But we can see that all this debt right here and people not living above the $0 line leads us to right here in the savings rate. The world average savings rate is actually about 2%. So that means people save about 2% of what they make per year, or in total, however you choose to look at it. Now, US millennials actually have an annual savings rate of negative 2%. And that is scary, because if you make $100,000, then that means you spend $102,000. So you're losing $2,000, spending $2,000 more than what you had every year. Plus, that's got to go into debt somewhere, which means you've got to be charged interest. And if it's personal debt, like credit cards or something more expensive, if it's short-term debt, you can really get destroyed by this interest. And not only can this be just $2,000, maybe you could be paying 20 or 30% more than actually what you spent over. Now, that can really dig yourself a deep hole. And I think it's why millennials are going to have a hard time with their retirement. I think it's something that a lot of people are overlooking nowadays, and I think it's not just millennials, to be honest. I think even my parents' generation, even people who are 40, 50, who should be getting really close to retirement, you know, they haven't saved enough. They don't really know what it's going to take, and they don't see it anytime soon because they realize that it's not quite enough, even though they've been trying to save for quite some time. But millennials, I believe, are over optimistic because most of them say that, and this is a study, by the way, that these statistics are from, is from TD Ameritrade, and they said that most of TD Ameritrade customers that are millennials, they want to retire in their mid-50s. Now, they gave a range from about 53 to 56, so I gave this number here. I thought that was pretty good. And this is pretty interesting because, to me, this means that they're not just the average run-of-the-mill millennials, and they're also not the very broke millennials that wouldn't be investing. Because if they're TD Ameritrade customers, they're definitely at least thinking about their finances and trying to invest. And those are the ones thinking they're going to retire at 50. Yet, most millennials will wait up until they're 36 to start saving for retirement. And that's not even by accident. Some of them plan to wait until that age to start saving for retirement. And that's a huge loss when it comes to capital gains, especially if you are investing with a brokerage. Now, it's pretty evident that millennials aren't saving enough for retirement, and only 38% are actually saving for retirement currently. And that's scary because I'm not a millennial even. I'm a Gen Z, which is the generation after millennials. And these numbers scare me a lot, especially to see what numbers we can find after several years in my generation. And I'm curious to see what develops. And I want to see if you have anything else to input. So, if you do, drop a comment, drop a like if you like the video. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.